They say money can buy anything, but it can't buy a lungful of air when you're 30 feet under the black water of Lake Michigan. I didn't dive into that freezing abyss because I wanted a reward. I didn't even know who she was. I was just a tired father driving home from a double shift, mourning a life that was stolen from me by people exactly like her. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Sometimes, the person you save is the very person who owes you a debt they don't even remember, and the quietest revenge is making them realize that their billion-dollar world only exists because a man with nothing decided they were worth saving. The rain in Chicago doesn't just fall, it punishes. I was driving my beat-up Ford, the heater rattling like a dying breath, thinking about my daughter's tuition and the empty seat at our dinner table where her mother used to sit. My life was a series of quiet struggles, a shadow of the promising career I once had before a corporate merger led by the ruthless Sterling Group erased my department and my healthcare in a single afternoon. That's when I saw the headlights veer. A sleek, silvery European coupe hydroplaned, spinning like a top before punching through the guardrail. It didn't just crash, it vanished into the dark, churning water of the lake. I didn't think. I couldn't afford to. I pulled over, the silence of the night suddenly deafening. I stripped my jacket, the cold biting into my skin like 1,000 needles, and dove. The water was a wall of ice. Beneath the surface, the world was a murky nightmare of bubbles and sinking metal. I saw her through the glass, a young woman, panicked, her hands clawing at a window that wouldn't budge. She was a household name, the heiress to the very empire that had dismantled my life, though I didn't recognize her then. I felt the pressure in my chest, a familiar anxiety I'd carried since the layoffs, but I channeled it into my limbs. I found a heavy rock on the lakebed, swung with everything my grief had left me, and the glass shattered. I pulled her out as the car succumbed to the depths. As we broke the surface, she was gasping, clinging to me like I was the only solid thing in a liquid world. I dragged her to the shore, shivering and broken. But as the sirens began to wail in the distance, I realized this wasn't just a rescue, it was the start of a reckoning. By the time the media descended, I was gone. I didn't want the "Where is he now?" headlines or the mysterious case of the vanishing hero. I went home, showered until the smell of lake water left my skin, and made my daughter breakfast. I watched the news in silence. There she was, Elena Sterling. The headlines called it a miraculous escape, and her father, the man who signed my termination papers, released a statement about family and resilience. They searched for me for weeks. Fans and followers on social media began to speculate, theorizing about a secret guardian or a guardian angel. They didn't realize their hero was a man they'd stepped on to build their skyscrapers. I felt a surge of intense scrutiny just watching them from my living room, knowing I held the truth of her most vulnerable moment in my hands. The Sterling Group offered a massive reward for the talented individual who saved their daughter. I looked at the bills piling up on my kitchen table. It would have been so easy to step forward, to take the check and smile for the cameras. But there is a specific kind of silent strength in being the person who holds a billionaire's life in your debt without ever asking for a dime. I started to see signs that Elena was struggling with the aftermath. Her last few posts hinted at a struggle with the pressures of her public life, her brush with death making the fame and industry feel hollow. She was losing herself, just like I had when I lost my job and my wife. She didn't know who saved her, but she was starting to realize that her money couldn't fix the hole the water had left in her soul. And that's when I decided to send her a message, not as a hero, but as a reminder. I didn't go to the press. Instead, I sent a single, anonymous envelope to the Sterling Group headquarters, addressed only to Elena. Inside was nothing but the waterlogged, muddy tie I had been wearing that night, the one I'd bought for the Game Changer interview that never happened because they canceled the department. The effect was immediate. The media reported that she vanished from the public eye shortly after receiving a mysterious package. She stopped the charisma and fan favorite routine. She realized her savior wasn't a knight, he was a casualty of her father's greed. The pivotal moment came when she finally spoke out, not about the crash, but about the shocking truth of how her family's wealth was built. In a candid interview, she opened up about the pressures of fame and the guilt of being saved by someone who owed her nothing. She looked into the camera, her eyes red, and said, "I was saved by a ghost of the people we forgot." The industry was shocked. Her father tried to brush it off as celebrity humility or a mental health condition, but the public saw the anxiety and self-doubt for what it was, a genuine awakening. My quiet revenge wasn't about hurting her, it was about forcing them to see the human cost of their breakout roles and corporate conquests. She began to use her well-being and her resources to rebuild the very lives her father had torn down, starting with a secret fund for displaced workers. But I still hadn't shown her my face. Years passed. I'm still out there, working on my own craft and my daughter's future. The Sterling Group is a different company now, led by a woman who understands that mental health matters and that every employee is a person, not a line item. I walked into a park yesterday and saw her. Elena was sitting on a bench, looking at the water, no longer the household name haunted by a mysterious illness of the soul. She looked peaceful. I sat on the other end of the bench, just another single dad taking a break. "It's a beautiful view," I said, my voice calm but intense. She turned, and for a second, I saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes, the memory of the man in the dark water. She didn't scream, she didn't call her security. She just nodded slowly. "I spent a long time looking for you," she whispered. "I wanted to pay you back." "You already did," I replied, thinking of the healthcare restored to my friends and the dignity returned to my neighborhood. "You stopped being the person who needed saving and became the person who saves others." That is the emotional justice of my story. I didn't need her money, I needed her to change. I walked away, leaving her there by the water. My daughter is graduating college next month, debt-free, thanks to a mysterious scholarship. I know exactly where it came from. Fame and wealth come with a price, but integrity is free. I'm not a hero in a viral video. I'm just a man who knows that sometimes, the best way to win is to let the world wonder what really happened. If you've ever felt invisible while doing the right thing, remember, the world doesn't need to know your name for your actions to change everything. What's a silent strength you've discovered in your own life?